Hey guys, I wanted to make this video last week, but it took me a while because I had to spend some time on this mouse. Also had so many things to do this week and last week, so I finally got the time to sit down and make the video. So yeah, here it is. This is my video on the Razer Viper V3. If you guys don't know, this is the Faker edition of the mouse, and if you guys haven't heard of Faker, it's kind of crazy if you haven't. To the majority of the world, the esports community isn't that big, but Faker is arguably one of the biggest players in the world and one of the most famous. I haven't used the Razer mouse since the Razer Viper Ultimate, so I thought it'd be nice to just jump in back into what Razer's doing right now and see what they did with the Razer Viper V3 Pro. So let's get into it. Overall, if you want a quick consensus, I think this is a great mouse, but it's nothing really special, and I'll get into it in a bit. But overall, if I do recommend this mouse, yes, I do, just with a little bit of caveats for sure. So let's talk about why the GOAT himself would use the Razer Viper V3 and how great this mouse is and what things are nice about it and what's so not so great about it. Okay, let's talk about its shape. Let's talk about the design. We can't not talk about the design, and obviously because it's Faker's edition. And I'll be honest with you straight up, this is not worth the extra $60 just for the paint job. Unless you had a ton of money to blow, I would not recommend the paint job. Yes, I understand it's Faker's edition, and unless you're a huge Faker fan or just really love this design, I can't really justify spending another $60. But a black one is like $130 compared to the $190. This is almost $190 after tax, so I would probably get the $130 black version. And you can probably find some on Facebook Marketplace that people are selling for even cheaper. I would probably recommend that over this, just because this value of how expensive the mouse is based on its paint job, and the specific version of the mouse I won't really recommend unless you love Faker. But I would recommend the price point that it is for the other versions of this mouse. So yeah, with that being said, I do want to talk about the design, obviously, of the color. I mean, if you are paying $60 for it, why does it look so good? It's Faker's signature on the right mouse button. It has an insanely cool demon-ish, because he's called the unkillable Demon King. There's a big demon decal on the bottom of the mouse. It covers your palm. This is a really cool design. I won't lie. It's like the main reason I said, you know what, I'll get this version for the review. It looks really sick. So about its weight, the weight is 54 grams, and it definitely is noticeably heavier than my Final Mouse, for example, or the Crazy Light. This is definitely more noticeable just because it's also a bigger mouse, so it's definitely more noticeable, and it is 20 grams heavier. But then again, that being said, it's not like an insanely heavy mouse to most people. I think this mouse is still pretty lightweight. It's just not light compared to the Final Mouse, and it feels heavy compared to the Final Mouse because 20 grams is almost double the mouse if you really think about it. Because if a Final Mouse and Crazy Light are about 30 grams and this is almost 60 grams, even though it's not the heaviest, it's almost double the weight. So it's kind of crazy to think about that for a second. So I do think if you're coming from a lighter mouse, I wouldn't really recommend jumping to anything like this because it's significantly heavier. Believe it or not, I do think it's significantly heavier. It's just, I mean, the only reason I think you would switch off a lighter mouse is because the shape was lacking, for example. 50 grams is still pretty light, and it's a pretty good, but I wouldn't say it's groundbreaking. Let's talk about the shape. It's like arguably the most important thing about this mouse, and I honestly say that this mouse shape is better than the G Pro Superlight shape, in my opinion, because it's a little more ergonomic. However, it is still really big and not meant for fingertip grip, so I'll say this first. If you do use fingertip grip, I would not recommend this mouse at all. 100% would not recommend this mouse. Again, my hand is a 19 by 10. It's not huge, but this is honestly just perfect for a palm grip. And it's not the biggest mouse ever, for example, but it's good enough and big enough that I only would want a palm grip or slightly claw my mouse on this. Relax, like comfortably I would do it. I did try fingertip gripping this mouse, and though it is possible to do it, it's just not like the most ergonomic for that. It really does lean into its slight curves and allowing it to be more ergonomic friendly for your palm grip or claw grip users. And I think for claw grip and paw grip, this is actually a really comfortable mouse. It isn't the most comfortable for fingertip grip. Again, I do fingertip grip a lot when using this mouse, so it definitely wasn't my favorite to fingertip grip. But when I'm not gaming, when I was using it as a palm grip mouse, this was arguably one of the most comfortable mouse shapes I've used in a bit. It's nothing like crazy comfortable, but it's definitely comfortable. Like, this isn't as comfortable as I remember the G502 being, maybe. I think the G502 was definitely a very comfortable ergonomic right hand mouse. The thing about this shit that I do like, however, is that it's easy to pick up with your palm. if you were, because it's just, again, a very like curvy, it's a very big molded shape for your mouse, and it's just nice for your palm grip. The side buttons are really nicely placed. As much as this is called the Viper V3, this doesn't really resemble the Viper V1 original to me, at least the Ultimate Edition. I remember having that mouse. It kind of gives me Death Adder vibes more than the Viper vibes in my experience, because it's definitely not super like the Viper Ultimate had a very low hump. However, this has a pretty high hump in my experience, and that's what makes it really bad for fingertip, because the top of my palm is constantly touching the mouse, which isn't good for fingertip grip if you don't know, because the reason why there's more friction for you, it'll mix up your aim a little bit. Verdict is that this is a really comfortable shape. Just make sure you're not fingertip grip, but other than that, I think it is a really nice shape to use. Buttons, on the other hand, have improved. I remember using the Viper Ultimate and not really liking the clicks on that mouse that much. I do like the clicks on this mouse a lot. They're not my favorite, but they're still really good. And the side buttons are actually the ones I was really surprised by. I really like these side buttons. The main clicks are not as good as the side buttons, and I think I'll quote me on that. I think if you try this mouse and you view the side buttons and how clicky and tactile these are compared to the normal mouse 1, mouse 2, not to say they're completely mushy, but they're definitely mushier than the side clicks, which is super weird to say. But yeah, I think Razer did an insane job with these side buttons. They're super big, they're super clicky, and they require a little bit of force to push in. This definitely makes your clicks more intentional on your side buttons, which I guess is what you want. And maybe that's why they made the left click and right click more mushy. But I would just like that feeling all around the mouse, personally speaking. This is the one thing I can't really like, is the scroll wheel. This doesn't feel cheap as a scroll wheel per se, but this doesn't feel like super high quality either. It's very smooth-ish. It's not smooth in a good way. It's hard to completely actuate where I want to sometimes on this mouse, because I feel like the steps are a little bit too short. So I accidentally overshoot a lot when you scrolling on this mouse. It just tends to happen. It's very, very short steps, which allows, and maybe it's the angle of which they show you to hold the mouse. I always tend to overshoot on the scroll wheel, not my favorite. The PTFE feet, they're huge, they're awesome, they're cool, like super glidable. It's G Pro standard, really huge mouse feet, which I will say is probably the best way to do it. I think it's really cool to still have a power button and a DPI button on this mouse, even though I don't really use it that much. I think it's really nice to just have it just for the sake of it. And then the USB-C, it's not a proprietary cable, so you should be fine. And yeah, for the designs of the mouse, that is a pretty sick mouse overall. But let's get into the performance. Obviously, I don't like using Razer Synapse, but it does have 8K polling hertz. But this is the thing. When I use 8K polling hertz on this mouse, I actually noticed that when I was playing Marvel Rivals, it didn't really support 8K hertz polling rate, which is weird to say. Because, you know, it's one of the main features of this mouse that it's 8K hertz polling rate, but some titles like Marvel Rivals struggle to use it because I think it's giving too much information to the system or to the engine. I couldn't really use it for Marvel Rivals, which is sucky. And again, I just use 1K hertz polling rate for that, and I didn't really notice a difference because Razer's sensors are really, really, really good. I would honestly say that Razer sensors are the best on the market. I don't have any problems with saying that. However, does that make it a very noticeable difference in terms of me using it compared to the Final Mouse? Not really. I do like have a little bit of placebo that I do think Razer's sensors are just a tiny bit better than the competition right now, and I could be completely wrong, but I personally like the way these sensors have acted for me throughout all the time I've used Razer mice. They're just really solid. Battery life. I did try using the battery life on this for 8K hertz. I will say this, the battery life, I only had to charge this once this week, and it was a super nice amount of battery I was having on this mouse, and it was rated for about 90 hours of usage. I was getting something similar about that. It was really, really solid that this mouse was always up when I wanted to use it. And the charging cable dongle, they look really, really cool. I won't lie, the dongle on this mouse looks really, really cool. And it does have a light on it, so you can check the battery level, I'm pretty sure. In my experience of using it, it's a very solid dongle. It has a tiny, tiny light compared to the Final Mouse. I mean, that's just more of a preference thing. I prefer the large light, personally speaking, but you know, I think Razer's dongle looks really sick as well. And this is the thing, there's like very limited issues with this mouse that I can actually talk about because it is just a really solid mouse. There's nothing crazy about it, and there's nothing special about it. There's some Razer Synapse stuff you could play around with, but no one really is gonna do that. And again, the way I do my reviews is that I'm thinking about it logically and decisively that, okay, This is what I would care about in the mouse. This is what other people most likely care about in the mouse. I don't fucking think that most people are gonna care that much about 8K hertz polling rate personally. But if you do, unfortunately it doesn't work from our rivals, but if you do play other games, it probably will. I don't think that's gonna matter to most people if most people can't even notice the difference between 1000 hertz polling rate and like 8000 hertz polling rate. However, this does have 32,000 DPI, I believe. I could be wrong, but I mean, insanely high DPI if you really need it. Again, most people are playing between the ranges of 400 to 3200 most of the time. That extra DPI is just, it's more of a flex for accuracy. And I don't think that you're gonna feel like de-accurate on any other of these top line mice. This comes down to the question, what makes this mouse so special and so great that Faker himself made a Faker signature edition for this mouse? And the truth is, it's really comfortable. For most mobile players, I'm pretty sure for them to be playing a game that's 40 minutes fucking long, they just want a comfortable mouse to deal with the long ass sessions they're playing. And the Death Adder V3 is a really solid, comfortable shape for palm grip to claw grip users. It just is. And Razer's reliable, and that's the truth. As much as this is expensive for $190 to get this specific version of the mouse, the $130 one is really solid and a better, and I'll be honest, it's a lot better than the G Pro Superlight. Because now that the G Pro Superlight is around the same weight as this, it's like kind of G Pro Superlight's kind of not that light anymore, obviously, compared to other, like, you know, the Crazy Light is actually light compared to the Superlight. So I would argue that this is the better version if you're choosing between the Logitech G Pro and the Razer Viper. However, those two mice are so specifically mainstream that I don't think that these mice stand out anymore in the market. Yes, they're very good mice, and no one's arguing that they're not. I just don't think it's the special that I'm excited about anymore. The only thing that really excited about me was the color. And honestly, I could really paint my own mouse if I really wanted to get a cool color, but I mean, it's an official licensed design, obviously. But it's just, that was the most exciting thing about using the mouse, was the fact that it was red and it looked cool. I wasn't really blown away by this mouse, personally speaking. And again, I was actually blown away by using the Crazy Light a little bit. That's why I really highly recommended the Crazy Light, because I thought for $130, that was an insane mouse to have with insane specs. There was so much more devotion, more passion in the Crazy Light's unboxing experience and the experience of using the Pulsar product overall compared to using this Razer mouse, which, although it is solid, is kind of boring, and that's my opinion on it. It's just not a special mouse. It's really solid, just not special. And as a person who really loves using a ton of mice, this didn't really blow me away. But that didn't mean to say that it's a bad mouse. If I had to give this mouse a rating out of 10, I'd give it like a 7 or an 8. It's a really solid mouse that for specific palm grip to claw grip users are gonna really feel validated here. It's not the most expensive if you buy the black version. Again, I can't recommend the Faker version unless you love Faker, because it's a sick design. Just, I don't think most people are willing to pay for it. Especially when you can spend that $60 on a brand new video game. Why not do that when you get the exact same mouse? I'm not really sure about the texture coating, because the texture coating feels very similar. It's a slight rubberized texture. I don't think it would be different on many other mice. But overall, it's a good one. But just, again, I think there are better mice out there. If you're gonna look for it, for fingertip grip users, look elsewhere. But however, if you really just love Razer mice, this isn't a bad one at all. And it's really good. Super solid, you won't be disappointed. It just doesn't stand out, I guess, in this current day market, in my opinion. But yeah, overall, that's my opinions on the mouse. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And yeah, like and follow for more. Peace.